get to that. So welcome everyone. We're in part one now of chapter 10 in Malachim Aleph, Perek Yud, part one. Let's get underway and Shoshi, that point that you just made now before we started officially to share is very important to explore. Here in Perek Yud, the visit to Shlomo HaMelech and to the Jewish people of none other than the very famous Queen of Sheba. So who is the Queen of Sheba? Where does she come from? She comes from Sheba. Well, that was an easy one. But what does that mean? She just showed up on the scene. Why is she here? Remember that in chapter 9, a lot of what we saw, I'm on page 418 in the Koren Tanakh, the Hebrew English. If not, you look at online somewhere. 1 Kings. Yeah, just look up 1 Kings chapter 10 in the middle of the page. And we're getting a flavor when we look at it that there is something here about the passage of between different nations, the connection between those nations, and the way in which they're coming through in order to make international trade happen. That's the first point. Eretz Yisrael is strategically located in a particular location, in the middle of three continents. Essentially, it's the crossroads. If you just look on a map, you get a feeling that it really is the hub through which everything else must pass, must go, that's apparent just looking at a map. So I'll put the map on the screen to remind you about all the trade routes. These are the different, all these dots are basically different places that Shlomo Melech had business interactions with or some kind of interaction with, right? So Yerushalayim is kind of in the center. You have all these different places where people are coming from, whether Africa, Egypt, whether from up in the Mesopotamia and the Fertile Crescent, coming down through this area. Obviously, this whole thing is a desert, right? So when you look at all these different areas, though, there's clearly it's very centrally located, right? And what we find in the Navi, in Perek Tet, Perek Yud, is the playing out of one of the main things that Shlomo HaMelech himself speaks about in Perek Chet, which we talked about at length, which is that the place of the Mikdash should not just be for the Jewish people. It's in Perek Chet. Now, Shlomo HaMelech does not only does he not get any kind of bikoret, any kind of criticism for this matter, but it seems that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is actually pretty approving. Look at the beginning of chapter 9 when Hashem comes to him. The way in which the interaction goes. There is a reality that the sort of a meta theme that if we look from the beginning of the Torah, really from the very first stories, we see that Avram Avinu, Sarah Imenu, already setting up a certain sense of mission, of where we're going, a certain trajectory, right? They're building altars, calling out in the name of Hashem. Certainly the way our tradition has always explained what they're up to, it's not just stam that they want to daven, but also they want to advertise. Right? That's the Rambam, the beginning of Hilchot Avodat Kochavim Mazalot. That's the description just on the level of pshat. What's going on? B'Yikra Sham B'Shem Hashem El Olam and Perek Chaf Alv. It's throughout. When we keep going, we start to realize, and again, this is sort of the way I've been schooled, if you will, but it really just from the level of pshat that there is a whole story that precedes the arrival of Avram Avinu Sarah Imenu on the scene, which tells us a couple of times things don't work out. And Avram Avinu is now going to be the representative nation, it's going to be the progenitor of a nation that will make God's name in the world. Right? That's that lechem ha'atzim, right? That's what v'yei bracha means. That's what it comes to. And that's the building of the altars, etc. And when we watch the story, and of course it has so many highs and lows, right? We learned that Avram Avinu and Sarah Imeinu, their progeny destined to go down to Mitzrayim. And when they emerge, we find out that there's an unfolding, a revelation to us as the readers of the Torah, people who learn Torah, about what the direction is meant to be. By the time we hit chapter 19, when the Jewish people come to Har Sinai, Hashem tells them that they're going to be Mamlechet Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh, right? They're going to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. And the question is, to what avail? A parsha of Matan Torah is not called the parsha of the Matan Torah to Klal Yisrael, though that's absolutely what it was. It's a parsha called Yitro. And the preamble, and it's debated historically, did Yitro even, the Gemara in Zvachim, one of the opinions is he didn't come before Matan Torah, he came after Matan Torah. There's something here that people want to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is what they do. Now, it's fascinating, and this is a very important point as well, is at the same time, we're not a proselytizing nation. You would imagine if this is the mission, so the mission should be everybody should join the Jewish people. But no, the Jewish people we are, Atem Edai, we're God's witnesses in the world. We're God's nation, meaning we're the kingdom of priests. Within our nation, there are priests, there are Kohanim, but we're the kingdom of priests to the rest of the world. That's meant to be the model. Now, the Mikdash has to begin, the Mishkan rather, does begin. It's not a center for the whole world. It just seems to be just for the Jewish people. Because the Jewish people encamp around, and there is a Mishkan in the middle. You know why? Because they haven't yet arrived at the main base of operations. And the main base of operations, the main platform for all this to happen, is a place on the map that mysteriously is, not so mysteriously, the place that Kadosh Baruch Hu chose, which is at the center of the world. Right? Meaning Africa, Asia, we got up here Asia Minor, Europe. Yeah, it's in the middle. Now, what do you mean it's in the middle? It's a globe, so we know like what. Okay, so first of all, Alpi Hamasoret, our tradition is that Hashem created the world out of this place. What does that mean? What it means? That is the starting point. Everything emanates from here. There are many beautiful drashot, midrashim, gemaras. This is part of our tradition. But just on the level of pshat, of geography, the reality is, certainly for most of human history to this point, if you want to get from point A to point B, you have to pass through this area. You could take ships, you could this, that, but as far as the land is concerned, it really was at the center. You could argue, well, that's true only to a point, because once shipping picks up, people go, Rome and Carthage have a thing going, etc. They don't need to go through Eretz Yisrael. Yes, but it's let's say now we could mention in our moment of Jewish history and world history, it's fascinating and uncanny how many times Eretz Yisrael figured and continues to figure in the center of geopolitics. Ad hayom hazeh. Ad hayom hazeh. Now, here's the mystery. Eretz Yisrael, this used to be a big deal, right? Was somehow, even though it's chosen by Hashem, it was not blessed with oil reserves. It was not blessed with gold mines. It was not blessed with a steady agricultural, agronomic economy, because the rain could fall, it couldn't fall. It will, it won't, right? It was not blessed with any of these things. And yet, mysteriously, it is at the center. And this is, now we're coming to the Shlomo piece. What did Shlomo HaMelech have? He had, you could say, high tech. What's the high tech of Shlomo HaMelech? Chachma. The currency that is intangible, but that drives everything else. Wisdom. And when we look at this story, Perek Tet, Perek Yud, and I know already, some of you already read ahead, so you know, it doesn't last. There's a crack in the diamond. There's a fissure. Things are not, they don't end up being sustained. But let's live in the moment. Here, the intellectual center of the world in this era is coming to hear the wisdom of a Shlomo HaMelech. And what's happening? We saw in Perek Tet, the main player, Hiram Melech Tzor, is the main player in the Middle East, to the north of Israel, and to the south, Egypt. And the two of them are bringing their gold and their cedars and whatever their natural resources are, they're pouring them into this place that when you look around, it in and of itself has one unbelievable commodity. It's a chachma. The chachma is granted by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, obviously. Obviously, in general, in terms of our emunah, but obviously on the level of Pshat, Shlomo HaMelech is asked by Hashem, so what would you like? Longevity, wealth, power, chachma. Okay, I give you chachma. And that becomes such an attractive component for the rest of the world. A word, by the way, about Tzor. We keep talking about Tzor, Hiram Melech Tzor. Until Alexander of Macedon conquered it in and around the 332 BCE, Tzor, there were two Tzors, Tyre, Tyre. One of them was Mivtzar Tzor, the fortress of Tzor, also known as the Tzor of the dry land. It was a coastal city. But the other Tzor, the one where Hiram lived, was about less than 1 kilometer off the coast. It was an island, and it was a major trading hub. And that's where Hiram Melech Tzor was. When Alexander of Macedon comes, the way he conquers it, apparently, is by creating siege works that end up creating a land bridge between the Tyre, that is the landlocked one, well, not landlocked, but the coastal one, excuse me, versus the island. Now, why should we care about this? Because Hiram Melech Tzor in his island kingdom has a great power of being able to use ships of necessity. So they're the most advanced. By the by, Tzor actually is truly in the Nachla of Asher, Shevet Asher, which is another story we won't go to today too much. Why did they conquer it? Well, it was and it wasn't, and there were people from the Jewish people from Shevet Asher who are in this coastal area. One of them, it seems to be later on in Jewish history, Yonah ben Amittai, Shevet Asher. That's why he has to do with ships, and he comes down, right, for the whole story there about when Hashem comes to him and the like, and why he went down to Yaffo to get to Tarshish. So Tzor is a crucial, not only a trading partner with Shlomo HaMelech, but he's also the one who creates the best vehicles that you could use. Or let me say it a bit differently. You know, you come to a farm, where are the main vehicles on the farm? They're John Deere equipment from the United States. They make the best farming equipment. Huh? Lahavdil, when you come to the port in Yaffo, to the port anywhere in the world, but in Yaffo, but even the port in Eilat, Etzion Gaver, in that area, Eilat of today, we think may have been the area of Etzion Gaver. The ships and the mariners are Tyrian. They're from Tzor. That's where they work. That's one of their industries. And that's how they transport. That's why they're transporting the cedars that way, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. So it's a major business hub. You want to be close to that. And Hiram, what's his obsession? Oh, I love David HaMelech. What a great person. Shlomo, you're his son. I love you too. I want to help you. Let me do this, that. And there'll be this interaction, this trade. To the south, Egypt. Kayadua, right? Where did, now, just talking geopolitics over here, right? Who has influence on a country? The trading partners have an influence on the country. It cuts both ways. So without drawing any direct parallels, but Rav Meidan makes this point several times, and we should just consider it. And I'm not drawing a direct parallel. I'm not trying to be critical, right? But what country puts so many of its companies in Israel? Well, they're buying a certain influence. What country is selling most of the materiel, military armaments, planes, etc., to the Jewish people, that country is buying influence because there's a give and take. Understand? If Tzor is about ships, as we will soon see, we might not get there today, but just want to plant the seed in your mind. What's Egypt about? Among other things, horses, it's tanks, horses, chariots. That's why we're obsessing, even in the Torah, Sus v'rochvo rama vayam. The highest technology that was Egyptian was laid waste. Now we come to, in these prakim, it's so significant to know that who's the main power, military, not business, military, and well, economic as well, but military power, right? You have to reckon with. It's Mitzrayim. It's Egypt. Now the relationship between Malchut Yisrael, Shlomo HaMelech, even in his zenith, and Mitzrayim is a very important one. There are many embassies, to borrow a modern example, that are set up in Jerusalem, in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. But there's one embassy that where it will be located will make a big difference in terms of legitimacy. Why? Because they're the big power player. Maybe we'll even give them an embassy where the princess of that nation can live. And we'll find a way to be related to them, because it could be, like they say, keep your enemies close, your friends close and your enemies closer. Could be that. Or it could be just keep everybody very good friends. Shlomo HaMelech's father-in-law, it's, in quotation marks, lives down south. It lives down south. It lives in Egypt. So there's a relationship. When you understand all of this, now Perek Yud, you open up at the Queen of Sheba. Where is Sheba? We're pretty sure it's in Ethiopia. We're pretty sure it's Ethiopia, right? She shows up on the scene because everybody wants to get involved. Everyone wants to be connected to Shlomo HaMelech. And again, it's not because Shlomo HaMelech is and Malchut Yisrael inherently has this unbelievable wealth, but they have a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of the smarts. And now we're back to the point that Shoshi had asked about before, started recording today. The idea that the knowledge of Shlomo, the chachma of Shlomo, was not just that he was a smart guy, but that Shlomo HaMelech represents the Kisei Hashem, the throne of God. And now they have the platform. And that's Sefer Shir HaShirim, Sefer Mishlei, Sefer Kohelet. 3 books in the Tanakh, all of them from the world of Ketuvim, written with Ruach HaKodesh by who? Shlomo HaMelech. It's the wisdom. It's not merely Shlomo's wisdom, Chachmat Shlomo. It's actually a book called Chachmat Shlomo. It's truly the Chachma of Reshit Chachma Yirat Hashem that he's trying to present. Again, recognizing that sadly, by the time we get to chapter 10, we start seeing that there's a downside to it. There's a negative, but we won't get there just yet. Okay, Shoshi, go ahead. And I think Shelly had her hand up. I don't know, see her on the call at the moment. I'm sure she's here somewhere. Okay, go ahead, Shoshi, please.
Okay, so here's I can't reckon this. This is Mitzrayim. They enslaved us. Like in my head, it's like Germany. Like, what? We can use them, but we are not going to have a marriage with them.
Yeah.
And it's not even allowed. We were told we couldn't go back to Egypt.
You're just setting the stage for next week. You're just setting the stage. You're 100% right. You're 100% right. And we will see that is exactly going to be where the Navi is going to go. Not the Gemaras, not Midrashim, just the Pshat. It's going to be so obvious.
But Shlomo,
but you have to understand the logic of where it comes from. The logic is, look, these are the power brokers of the world. We understand that there's problems and challenges. We won't go down that road. We'll do it right. We'll do it safe. We'll do it smart. And we will be able to do something that will raise up even the lowest place that was enslaving of us. Here, we're going to pay you back. You know what we're going to do? We're not going to enslave you, but we're going to show you that you should be Avdei Hashem. It didn't work.
Not only You know,
I'm
I
just here
was
to present the
recently-
logic of chapter 10. We didn't get chapter 9. I mean, chapter 10, we didn't get to the second half of chapter 11. So I meant to say chapter 11 is where the problems start. We'll get
were
there. We'll get there.
recently- Well,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
were recently in
you're already
Germany.
thinking ahead. That's
No,
what I'm trying
I'm
to do.
just
Get us,
telling you, we were recently in Germany for a family situation. You know, we had to be there for my father-in-law's German, so they made a memorial for his family. We all went, and I can't tell you how many Israelis are living in Germany.
right,
I'm
right.
it was abhorrent to me, and I couldn't breathe. And then I realized,
Yeah.
wait a second. I have to step back and be like, wow.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay, wait, we have a whole order here.
I-
Larry's next, Larry, and then Karen, and then Helen. Larry, Callan, Helen, and Debbie. Sorry, you didn't have to put your hand up with the secret, the special hand. Okay, wait, Karen, go ahead.
I was just going to say the Chassid in me says there is no place that's devoid of a spark of holiness. So it is our job. This is what our mission as a people is, to somehow find that spark, no matter how deep it is, and release it. And that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. And you understand that you said the chassid in you, the Hasidus, but you do understand, obviously, Hasidus is not invented. It's from the sources. And that here's a good example. Like, what do you think he was trying to do? You know, Sosi understands very well, like, it's like a dance with the devil. What are you doing? Right. I say, like, I'm sure Shelley will say momentarily, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but come on, like, did he not think it was going to go badly? And it did go badly. And it's going to be the next pair. So I'm trying to present now, like, what is Shlomo HaMelech's logic? What did he say in his Tefillah Perek Chet? He said what he was going to do. And what is he now? What are we now seeing? The Queen of Sheba. Now it's not 2020. They can't get on a plane, right? She's not coming down the steps from a plane. You got to travel this entire way with a whole entourage because she heard that there's this king, and she can't. She has to meet him. We're about to read it. We didn't start reading the psukim. Okay, Larry, go ahead, and then Debbie.
I don't. There's not a. I don't understand how the Chachma of Shlomo translated itself into benefits for his neighboring countries.
It translated in as much as other nations of the world. We're going to see it. We're going to see it inside. We're going to see it inside, actually.
Okay, I'll wait.
Well, yeah. We'll see it inside. But to understand it more, because clearly he wasn't trading a commodity that he had. Again, he doesn't have oil. He doesn't have. It's modern, but he doesn't have gold. That's not what he has to offer. Something, right? So what does he have? That's the question. That's what we'll have to see. Okay, Debbie, go ahead. And I think and Helen's waiting also.
I have to address comparing Germany to Egypt and so many Israelis living there. And I'm addressing it as a child of survivors, as you know.
Yeah.
There's a major difference between Germany and Poland. Germany has taken responsibility and did from the beginning, right after the war, for what happened there, tried very hard to compensate in whatever way you could, including when I went to Israel the first time as a teenager, there was a German kid sitting next to me on the plane. Poland, on the other hand, as you well know, even when we were there, ignore, they take no. So to me, and I was born in a DP camp in Germany, although I remember nothing about it. The huge difference is that one has accepted the responsibility and tried to work to correct however you can versus pretending this never happened, which Poland does.
I think one is more.
Now, how Egypt handled it, I can't.
Well, we don't know. Yeah. And you understand that it's not like they were making there's no such thing that there was reparations, right? That's an anachronistic idea. The Egyptians didn't take responsibility. We're sorry we did that. It's the ancient Near East.
Right.
Like that's how it goes.
I think one's more savvy. I think Germany saw in order to get into the world again, they had to make reparations. But no, I was there, and trust me, the mayor of the little town that my father-in-law was from had no want or desire to make any restitution, any acknowledgement of it. It was a townsperson that forced him into it. It was, I walked out of there and all I could see was red blood.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
tell you, it was
Very
not,
challenging. Certainly
Yeah.
a very challenging, yeah, very challenging.
I'm from also two parents who survived the Holocaust. Very, very sad story on both sides. So I'm tainted,
I
100%.
understand.
I think it's tainting. I think it's reality.
No, it's you're a product of the experience for sure.
I
It's not a
am
small thing.
100%.
It's so
100%.
crucial. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just mindful of the time a little bit. Thank you for those comments. The points well taken. Helen, do you have a comment still? You were still waiting?
We're always reminded, Eretz Zavas Chalav Udvash. And in your last estimation of where our strengths lie in geopolitics, technology, where does that leave that phrase, Eretz Zavas Chalav Udvash? The only thing that I could think of, bees are very, very important in pollinating the world. And I don't know if I could go that far out, that's what Zavas Chalav Udvash means, not exactly the dairy products.
Yeah. Choliot, that it refers to something more.
Because we've
Yeah.
got to give,
It could be that it's more of a metaphoric expression as well. Maybe. I like
okay,
it.
then with one other thing, our past Haftorah goes through a great deal of measurements. And how does that reflect to the true measurements? Is that Yirmiyahu talking about measurements?
Talking about Yechezkel, talking about the third temple.
Right,
Yechezkel.
so, yeah, Yechezkel. Is that very close to the plan that we have for this temple? For Shlomo's idea?
No, it's a much expanded version of the dimensions, etc. Much expanded.
Okay, and one more thing, sorry.
Okay, and then we're gonna
You
move
and
to the
your-
Navi. We gotta learn
Yeah.
some Navi today inside.
Okay, you and your son at this Gesher, the name of the place where the Oren Kodesh was temporarily placed.
Oh, we were passing through near Kiryat Yarim, where it was. Yeah.
Right. Okay. It's astounding. Its hiddenness and away from public attention all those years. Absolutely. When you mention it, you mean it was in a hut or a barn all those years unattended?
It wasn't unattended. There was, we were taking me back now to Sefer Shmuel Aleph. There's a lot to say there, but I don't think we're gonna have time to get into it right now, Helen. I gotta move on.
Okay.
There's a lot there, but it's like it's too much. It's too much to get into. Just too much to
Okay.
to
It's
get
just
into.
shocking. It's
Yeah,
just
otherwise, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, but these are all excellent excellent points. I don't take anything away from them, but it's taken us too far afield.
Rabbi, just to get
Yeah,
us
please.
back on track, I have a theory about Shlomo and why he messed up, and we're also puzzled with how he could have made missteps. And I've talked about it with Shelley over the years.
Yeah.
And that is, I think when he asked for wisdom, that's the one thing you can't be given. Wisdom only comes from
Interesting.
experience.
Okay, could be.
It
I mean,
comes from-
Hashem did say to him, "I'm going to give you wisdom." It says so.
I get it. And yet I think there's wisdom in the sense of knowledge. So he had all this knowledge of languages and nature and other things. And then there's the kind of wisdom that comes from experience. And that kind of wisdom, it seems he really didn't have. He's making these missteps that we, with the experience of knowing Torah, wouldn't make. He's making them. So I think
Wow.
Hashem answered him in one sense, but maybe not in the full sense. And
Hmm.
that's where we're seeing the problems.
Hmm.
Something
Okay.
to think about.
Okay, yeah, could be. Let's go. Now, let's go. A few minutes left. Let's go. Parak Yud. Okay, again, we just saw in chapter 9 was all of the different things that came to him, particularly involving Hiram. We talked about that. It's in the second half of Parak Tet, verses 10 and onward, about all the things that were sent, right? And we have Pasuk Chav Gimel and onward, the different places that repeating again, the different governors that were in different places, the Nitzavim. And we have the daughter of Paro, that her house was moved, right? And the area that it was moved to, etc. And it tells you that Shlomo would always go and offer offerings. And then we learn Pasuk Chav Vav, verse 26 in chapter 9, about the ships, right? And the idea that verse 27, Hiram sent in ships his servants, the people who were the mariners, meaning to say they knew the sea. They went with Avdei Shlomo. Where did they go? To Ophir. Where is Ophir? Right? Pray tell. It's somewhere in Africa. Somewhere in Africa. We don't have the exact coordinates. We don't know 100% where it is. So there, Dot Mikra and the Atlas Dot Mikra, there's competing versions of what it might be. Here, I'll put it on the screen. Right? Here's southern. Here's Eilat Etzion Gaver, probably. Is Ophir down the coast here? You have to go down through the Reed Sea that way, or is it somehow down this way? It's southern tip of Saudi Arabia. When you look at a map, of course, Ophir, and here's Shva. Now we're going to come to Shva. It's probably Ethiopia. So you could have gone overland, or there's a way to reach it using the sea as well. So if you look in Parak Yud, now we start. Parak Yud, Umalkat Shiva shomat et shema Shlomo l'shem Hashem vatavo l'nasato b'chidot. So who is this person? She's the queen of Sheba. She heard the name of Shlomo l'shem Hashem. She got wind somehow that it was about God. So she came to test him with riddles. Why? But she came. But she's curious. Vatavo Yerushalayma. Bechayil, kaved meod, gmalim nosim besamim, v'zahav rav meod, ve'evan yekara. She comes with these camels that are laden with spices, gold, and precious gems. Vatavo Shlomo to bury love. It kol asher haya im levava. She told him everything that's in her heart. Ve'aged la Shlomo et kol dvareh. Shlomo explained to her all of her words. She said things she didn't understand, meaning riddles, maybe things that were perplexing to her. He answered them all. Lo hayad davar ne'elam min hamelech ashlo higid la. There was nothing that he was unable to answer and to reveal to her, to tell her. Vater malkat Shva et kol chochmat Shlomo v'habayit asher bana. She saw the wisdom of Shlomo. She saw the house that he built. Umachal shulchano moshav avadav umamad misartav umal bushehem umashkav ve'olato asher yale beit Hashem. She was overwhelmed by the richness of his table, the wealth of his table, how his servants are, how everyone is dressed, how everything is set up, right, in terms of all of the elements of food and drink and the like, and all of the offerings that he brings to the house of Hashem. That's a feature, standing alongside the physical wealth. And she was smitten. It was breathtaking to her. What I heard about you in my land, again, there's obviously no media So how did she find out? She found out because he's famous. Everybody knows about him. All these things that I heard about you are true. All these things, I didn't believe it originally when I heard it. I saw now with my eyes, and it's not even half. Meaning, I didn't even appreciate what it really meant. Right? What you've done here is much greater even than I knew about and that I heard about over there. Fortunate, glad, happy must be those who are your people, those are your servants, those who stand before you always, who hear your wisdom. Now hear Perek Tet, said the queen who came from Sheba, from Africa. Yehi Hashem Elokecha Baruch, asher chafetz b'cha latitcha l'kisei Yisrael, v'avat Hashem et Yisrael le'olam, v'yisimcha l'melech lasot mishpat u'tzedakah. May Hashem, your God, be blessed, who desired you to put you on the throne of Israel in the love that God has for Israel, meaning here the Jewish people, not the land, the Jewish people, forever. And he made you a king to do acts of justice and righteousness. Mishpat u'tzedakah. Mishpat u'tzedakah. This pasuk should remind us right here of moving backwards. That's what Shlomo Melech asked for when he had the revelation from Hashem, when he had the nevuah. Hashem came to him, right? The description on page 406 in my Tanakh, whatever you have it in your Tanakh, it's chapter 3. All right, you have the idea of mishpat being mentioned here again and again, with the notion of tzedakah. That your father came before with tzedakah, Hashem says to Shlomo, and you will, right? It's verse 9. He asks for a leiv shemer lishpor amcha lavin beit tov l'ra, kimucha lishpor amcha kaved hazeh. Hashem agrees. That's what he gets. And of course, moving backwards. Lasot tzedakah mishpat. It's Sefer Bereshit, chapter 18, verses 18 and 19. You can look it up for yourself. It's what Hashem says about Avram Avinu. I know that his children's children will be those who will do what? They'll do tzedakah and mishpat in the world. It will be the most amazing thing. And that's what they will be representative of in the world. And that's Malkat Sheva, person who has no reason to come except she heard about him and she was very intrigued. Is it a jaunt, stam, or is she seeking something? And she's blessing God, right? And then and she's blessing him that he sits in the Kisei Yisrael. Pasuk Yud. Vatitein lamelech mea ve'esrim kikar kesef uvsamim arbe me'od. Ve'evin yikara lo va'kabosam ahu od larov asher natna malkat shva lamelech Shlomo. Look at all the things that she gave him and tells you now the quantities. V'gam an oni chiram asher nasa oni with an o. Aleph, but with the chataf kamatz over there, right? Oni chiram asher nasa zahav me'ofir, evi me'ofir, atzei al mugim harbe me'od, ve'evin yikara, the shipsmen, the sailors of Hiram brought gold from Ophir. Ophir and Shva, same area, right? Vayas hamelech atzei al mugim, mis'ad leveit Hashem, uleveit hamelech v'chinorot unvalim l'sharim, lovachen atzei al mugim, l'nir'ad yom hazeh. The special kind of wood, he made the wood into elements of his kingdom, essentially, right? He made them. It was like some kind of an assistance to the house, with something supportive, a mis'ad, milashon sa'ad, which means to help something, assistance, and he made instruments. The music in the mikdash, now the beautiful the wood made the Stradivarius violins, the Shlomo Melech violins were made with this wood. And we've not seen this wood before or after. V'amelech Shlomo natan lamalkat Sheva et kol chefza asher sha'ala milvarash natan la ki yad hamelech Shlomo v'tefen v'terech la'artza hi va'avadeha. All right, what happened? He gave her all of her desire that she asked for. What does that mean? All the questions she asked. Yeah, and also he traded with her whatever he had. He gave her, and it says that she went back home. She took all of this. Material, right? She took it back with her. Right now, one more thing, and I think Shelley, someone put some comments in. Let me look at that, but I want to show you one other thing, which is in the pagan world, the success of the king of a nation is interpreted as the power of the God of the nation. Right, exactly. And Shlomo Melech, when they get to Yerushalayim, what do they find? There's no pagan God, right? They get there and it's like, well, where's your idol? Where's your picture of him? Well, no, he doesn't have a picture. What's Shlomo Melech telling them, right? He's teaching these people about Asher Haim Sham, how to get closer to Hashem. He's teaching them wisdom of the world, right? Larry, correct. His palace was predominantly out of wood. It's because Beit Yar HaLevanon was like sort of the expression for the palace, right? When you look up in Divrei Hayamim, if you just look up Divrei Hayamim Bet, chapter 9, Divrei Hayamim Bet, chapter 9. Let's look at it quickly because we're running out of time. Chapter 9 over here. I must close at 10:30 today. An appointment. So look at chapter 9, page 994 in the Koren Tanakh. It's Divrei Chronicles 2, chapter 9. We learn here, it's the version of the same story of the, she comes, he talks to her, they have the whole interaction, right? And in this context, look at chapter 9, verse 22. So page 995, verse 22. If you didn't get there yet, I'll just read it for you. V'yigdal hamelach Shlomo mikol malchei haaretz. And King Shlomo was greater than all the kings of the land, means of the world. Le'osher, for wealth, v'chachma, wisdom. V'chol malchei haaretz, all of the kings of the world, mevakshim et pnei Shlomo, lishmo et chochmato, asher natan ha'elohim belibo. All of the kings of the world are coming to greet Shlomo, to meet with Shlomo, to hear his wisdom, which Hashem has placed in his heart. This, you could say, is the zenith of all of Tanakh. He has the nations of the world eating out of his hand. And when if you would make a list on paper, like, okay, well, these people have a lot of gold, and these people have precious gems, and these people have wood. What does Shlomo have? He has chachma. The chachma, though, is davka, the chachma that Hashem placed in his heart. What do they bring? Pasuk Chav Daled, same place. Ish minchato, they bring their gifts. Klei chesef, uchlei zahav, uslamot, neshek, uvesamim, susim, ufradim, vashana b'shana. Each year they show up, they bring all of these materials with them. They're making the wealth of the Jewish people, they're trading their material wealth for the intellectual, spiritual wealth that Shlomo HaMelech Klal Yisrael has to offer. One of Shim Rav Meidan points out, if you look in Sefer Dvarim in chapter 4, right, and this is now just to bring things full circle to what Shochi had mentioned as we were getting underway. Look at Dvarim chapter 4. Just flip there for 1 minute. That's a lot of page turning. We learn here, page 215 in the Hebrew English Koren Tanakh. It's Dvarim chapter 4, verse 6. Verse 5. See how I tied the edicts and the statutes God has commanded me, as Hashem, my God, commanded me. Within the midst of the land where you are going in order to possess it. Ushmartem, guard it, guard the mitzvahs. Vasitem, and you should fulfill them, uphold them, etc. Why? That is going to be your wisdom and your understanding in the eyes of the nations. Asher yishmeun et kol chukim ha'ela. They will hear about. Doesn't mean they're going to keep, but they're going to hear about all of your edicts as Jews. The Amron, they will say, "Rak am chacham v'navon hagoy gadol hazeh." What a wise and perceptive and intelligent nation this is. How great this nation is. Ki mi goy gadol asher lo Elohim krovim elav kadunai Eloheinu b'chol kor'enu elav. For who, Moshe Rabbeinu says to the Jewish people, for who is such a great nation that has God near them like us, that we have Hashem, our God, whenever we call out to him. Umi goy gadol, and woe is a great nation. Asher lo chukim mishpatim tzadikim k'chol Torah azot asher nochim noten lifnechem hayom. And who is a great nation that has edicts and statutes that are righteous, like our Torah, that I am placing before you today. I won't read the rest because the rest is, but be careful you don't forget that we went to Har Sinai. Don't forget we learned, don't do Avodah Zarah. Don't forget. But right here, as the Jewish people are on the cusp of the border, this is the last month. We know beginning of Sefer Dvarim is in Rosh Chodesh Shvat it starts, and Moshe Rabbeinu dies already in Chodesh Adar on the 7th, according to our calculation, to Chazal's calculation. So in that span, this is what he's telling them. You're going there. Here's what I want you to remember. And when you get to the time of Shlomo Melech, that's what we have. And it's astounding. It's astounding. And that's what it means, by the by. And I didn't put it in the source. We don't have time for it. That's what the Netziv says. When was Sefer Kohelet written? By Shlomo HaMelech. Kohelet was written, Chazal say, in the later years of his life. Quite obviously, says the Netziv of Volozhin in his masterful Hamek Davar, he wrote it over the years, Kohelet. Which years? When the nations of the world would come every year on a pilgrimage to Yerushalayim for the holidays, particularly for Sukkot, he would talk to the nations of the world in this way. And that's why Sefer Kohelet refers to a lot of different themes, sometimes seemingly contradictory ones. It's a Kohelet, it's an anthology of the greatest talks that Shlomo HaMelech ever gave. And that's why it's Divrei Kohelet ben David, Melech B'Yerushalayim, and the description of God as Elokim, going back and forth between Elokim and Shem Hashem, and all this wisdom, and right? He's talking to the people of these nations in a certain level, Ba'asher Heim Sham, in the categories that they know. I went through wealth and I had this and I had that, and then none of it worked for me. But he's drawing them in closer. Sof davar akol nishmar elokim yirav mitzotav shemor ki zeh kol ha'adam, not ki zeh kol Yisrael. The essence of humanity, of the human being, is to fear God. Yeah. So these are crucial themes to consider and to think about. Obviously, much more to say. But Shelley, you had a question. You waited so patiently. I'm sorry to keep you on a string so long. Go ahead, please.
Okay, the thing is, I don't think you understood what I wrote down. The fact is not, when you think that if a country is doing well, that means that their God is the most powerful. That doesn't mean that you want to take over the spiritual part of it. The whole thing in paganism is to propitiate the gods, because the gods are couldn't care less about people.
Okay.
So therefore, they wanted stuff from him. So they're willing to come up to and give stuff to his gods, just like when we're invaded in Shoftim and stuff by these various little petty kingdoms, we had to pay tribute to them, because in those cases, they felt their gods were stronger than our God. So you can't look at it in the idea of they're really coming to God. They're not.
No. Okay. Yes, you're correct, but this is exactly heightening and emphasizing my point. The people who came to give stuff to Shlomo did not come because they were trying to propitiate a god. They didn't come out of fear. They came out of love and out of attraction. And the fear was not the factor at play. The love was. And wait. And curiosity factor regarding Shlomo. But when they came and they brought their gift, that's the point. It doesn't say they brought these gifts to God. They brought them to Shlomo. And they had these relationships with him. Yes, he was powerful. But what was the power? It was wisdom. It's divine wisdom. The idea here is specifically Shlomo is the ambassador of the nation of ambassadors.
But
he's the Melech of the Mamlechet Kohanim, V'goy Kadosh. Now, it doesn't last, I know, but it's not that they came and said, well, he's powerful, so we got to give to his God. It's that they realized the wisdom of what Shlomo was representing.
But we're taught that when in a situation like this, where we're on top, or later on after in the story of Esther, after they managed to kill off Haman and all the detractors, you can't convert people because they're looking for some kind of benefit from joining the group. So even if they weren't afraid to have to propitiate Shlomo or his God, they're wanting a benefit out of it.
they're not coming to really
Yeah,
learn.
now you're getting into my Purim shir. Each year I do something for the Megillah. That's a little bit where we're going. So don't get ahead of me, because I want people to come back to that shir. But you're moving in the right direction, because that is going to be a question that's going to be very much a Purim and Shlomo HaMelech question. You have to come back next week for that. So anyway, but that's one of the things I want to talk about is how do we get there, and what does it mean? Now we don't really have time to see the Malbim has a whole understanding what's here. We won't see it today. There's no time. I'll just point out the following. So the Gemara has a strange line above Batra. Amr Shmuel bar Nachmani Amr Yonatan Kol haOmer Malkat Shva Isha Haita Eino Ela Toeh. My Malkat Shva Malchuta de Shva. So it's a strange sentence. Whoever says that the Queen of Sheba was a woman is making a mistake. Who's Malkat Shva? The king of Sheba. The Maharsha right away says, wait, this doesn't make any sense. When you read the story in the Navi, it's quite obvious that the whole thing is in the feminine tense. She's not a man, she's a woman. It says so repeatedly. So what does Shmuel bar Nachmani mean? So he goes on to explain, it doesn't mean here the word Isha, that she's a woman. It should be read rather as whoever says that the Queen of Sheba was the wife of the king is making a mistake. What does Malkat Shva mean? She was the sovereign. She was the regent. Shehiba atzma malchata deshva. She served as the ruler. Right? And the point is to emphasize, don't think that she was also coming as an emissary, like Bat Paro was the representative, and all these other women. We're going to learn about that shortly as well. Don't think that all of that was that here also she's the queen and there's also a king. She's the sovereign. She's the main person. And the Maharsha says that has to be what he means, because when you look in the pshat of the story, so obviously it was a story about the queen, not a man. More to say on this and other subjects. That's all we have time for today. So I'll close out the shir today. Please join me next week. We will have a shir then we're going to have to make some other arrangements in terms of shir, because the following 2 weeks is going to be some problems, but some scheduling conflicts, but we'll figure that out when we get there. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the shir today. Wish everyone a great day.